Thank everyone for coming out. We are here to announce the introduction of new legislation that is specifically and solely focused on the issues of trying to rescue the most difficult schools that exist across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have worked in great detail to pull together all of the proven programs that make a significant difference in terms of academic achievement, and want to drive those programs into these schools that have been struggling for far too long. Our concept is called the creation of Victory Academies. Victory Academies will operate on some very, very basic principles, but again, time-tested, evidence-based, that have an impact, that can make a difference if there's the will to put them in place. The target population of schools is our lowest performing schools across the Commonwealth, those 144 schools that are not performing and have not performed well at all for far too long. Those schools exist all across the Commonwealth with a large concentration here in the city of Philadelphia, but they do exist across the entire Commonwealth. The principles are real simple. It's not complicated, and again, it is based on what we know to make a difference in the lives of achievement for children, especially children, students who have been struggling. Smaller class sizes, smaller class sizes. We want to, Victory Academy will have a class size of 15, 16, 17, 18 students. Longer time in school. The school day will be lengthened. The Saturday classes will be available. Instruction during the course of summer. What we know is that the greatest loss of achievement for all communities, regardless of race, regardless of income, happens between when school ends in June and when it begins again in September. It makes absolutely no sense for us to talk about trying to make schools successful when we know that we have a significant loss, as I said, across all income lines, across all races, between when school ends in June and when it begins in September. So we're in Victory Academy. We'll have school 4 to 6 weeks during the summer months. As I said, a longer school day, classes on Saturday, summer classes. In addition to that, we are saying that Victory Academies will have the option of reconstituting themselves under the current public school environment that they're in, or if they choose to want to move to a charter concept, they will able to utilize only those charter programs that are the top performing charter programs in the Commonwealth. We already have an existing database that indicates what charter programs are performing at high levels and what charter programs are barely meeting the mark. So the schools and the school districts will have the opportunity to choose to reconstitute their schools from a public standpoint or a charter standpoint, but only those charters, as I indicated, who are performing at a high level. And the other important point of this program of a Victory Academy is that it is our intention to relocate from the outside community into the school building all of the relevant social service programs that are necessary to help children be put in a position, to be put in a place so that they can learn and that they can achieve. Too many times that there's a disconnect between what happens in a school building and what happens outside. Or if there's a connection, it is a negative connection. We want to make sure that everything is together, working hand in hand with the academic program, but providing an intense and an aggressive social service program that, if you will, ministers to the entire portion of that student in every aspect of their reality. Victory schools will have a process in place that allows full engagement by the local communities. We'll have a rigorous assessment process in place that determines where children are in the beginning of the school year and how they perform during the course of the school year at close-in intervals. Victory Academies will also have a process in place that allows not just for regular assessment of students, but regular working positive assessments for students and teachers and everyone else engaged in the process. We want to make sure that if we're not having success with a student, that we're able to quickly understand exactly where they are and make the appropriate changes, also with the teachers and the other support programs and the other support services that exist around those students. This is only a portion of what is Senate Bill 930. It will be introduced as Senate Bill 930. It's only a portion. These are all the highlights of what we know Victory Academies will be. There's been a lot of conversation about trying to do new and different things with respect to the education of our children. We have a track record of success that exists for many students across the Commonwealth. Over the last 8 years, we've improved test scores in just about every category for about every constituency in our schools. We've closed the achievement gap between low-income students and high-income students. We've closed the achievement gap between students of varied minority communities and majority white students. We've closed that achievement gap, but we still have a significant issue that we have to deal with respect to these students in this bottom tier who have been suffering in an academic environment that has not been responding to their reality. It's our intention to create a reality in Victory Academies that works, that utilizes all of the techniques and programs that we know that have made a difference in school districts across the country and across the world. And we have no intention of experimenting, but utilizing proven, performing programs that will make a difference in these children's lives. So with that, we'll end it there. If there's any questions, we'll be glad to take them right now.
Senator, your program sounds an awful lot like what Philadelphia is already doing with its Promise Academies, with longer school day, with the weekend classes. How is it different, and how would Victory Academies work in Philadelphia?
Our intention is to work in partnership with everyone, with Dr. Ackerman and all of the school board administrators, to work with all the unions and everybody fully engaged. I think our program may be a bit more aggressive, but we know that more time on task, more involvement in an academic setting, additional social services brought to bear to assist and to help everybody and create a positive environment to help everybody, we know that it can make a difference. So this is not working opposed to, this is working with what may already be existing in many schools across the Commonwealth.
But who would call the shots? Would the SRC call the shots in Philadelphia, or would this be a state education department? Or? This
is a partnership between everybody engaged in this process. It could be the SRC, it's the Department of Education. There really are no separations between every level of the academic process. It's not just a function of the State Department of Education. It's not just a function here in Philadelphia, SRC. It's a function of everybody engaged together, working through all those issues. But creating a dynamic where we focus in like a laser on those issues and those programs that we know make a difference.
Smaller classes cost money. The Philadelphia School District is facing a $629 million deficit right now, and they're talking about making class sizes go up. How would you pay for this?
Well, it's our funding stream. Before we get to the larger problem, the larger problem of trying to fund public education across the Commonwealth, which we're fighting for in Harrisburg right now to reduce the governor's budget cuts. And that's a different conversation over here. Our focus is to make sure that these challenged academic environments get the kind of direction and assistance that they need. And in the context of trying to give them the help, try to figure out the larger budget funding problem that we have across the Commonwealth.
There's a group of senators, most notably Senator Anthony Williams, right here from our own delegation, who are pushing SB1 as a way to treat those same 144 schools. That's a voucher plan. Two things. First of all, for the record, where are you on the voucher plan?
I'm not a supporter of vouchers.
Okay. And how would you compare the costs involved with this to the voucher costs?
Well, if our focus is really looking at that year one of the current version of SB1, we priced that at about, I believe, a $54 million expenditure. And what we're doing is working through the numbers. Elmer is taking, if you will, we could utilize those same kinds of dollars, all right? But also look at the fact that as we co-locate or relocate other service providers inside the academic setting, which is the school building, that they're bringing their resources with them, their financial resources with them. So it really is, in many respects, a restructuring of the entire service network for young people, a restructuring of the academic environment, a restructuring of their social service environment. You know, there's schools not too far away from here where on one block you have the school building, and within 50 yards, well, not even 50 yards, within 25 yards, there's the neighborhood health center, okay? And it seems almost senseless to me that you have these two structures who are within 50 yards of one another, that there's very little engagement between the two. Seems to me that you need to merge both together, create an environment, a cohesive, collective operating environment where teachers are talking with healthcare providers are talking with teachers. The whole academic setting is kind of restructured into more of a service setting where everybody's working together for the benefit of the children. From a financial perspective, we believe that helps tremendously in terms of the student-adult ratio, okay, because you have more adults, more professional service providers inside the school, and it definitely helps with respect to the financial side.
Let me ask you to put your handicapper's hat on now. Looking at SB1 moving through the system right now, 9:30 just going in. What do you think the chances are that SB1 is going to get passed both houses and then be signed by?
I think there is a difficult road to go on this one. We've heard from a lot of pushback from senators and House members across the Commonwealth that there is some concern about the substance of SB1. But I want to, you know, I don't want to get so far lost in the conversation about SB1 as opposed to talking about proven programs that we know make a difference in terms of the achievement of students, okay? You know, we've looked all across the country, we've looked across the world to see what's working. There's not an academic setting that does not prove out the point of trying to drive to smaller class sizes. There's not an academic setting. I mean, most countries around the world are teaching their children are 240 days out of the year in school, okay? We're at 180, all right? You know, the Time magazine did a front page cover story about 4 or 5 months ago that talked specifically about the issue about the loss of achievement between June and September, and it's the greatest loss of academic success is right there. All right, so if we've got children in the classroom, okay, and they're learning and they're working and they're being creative, it's doing all kinds of things that a young person might want to do to get their learning processes moving all throughout the year, but especially during the summer. We know the pull of summer. We know what happens when it gets warm outside. We understand that and appreciate that. But that's where the creativity comes in line. But if we keep focusing on that, we work with these children and their families and understand the total benefit of academic success. And I emphasize not just students, but their families, all right, which is something that Dr. Ackerman has worked on with their parents program to bring parents inside the classrooms also. we think that will make a difference. And we think we can draw all kinds of support to the concept, especially support from our friends in the private sector. We believe that they'll respond to a program like this and help out.
Well, these are, as you say, proven concepts, yet the constituency for them is not clear. I mean, the public seems to be caught up nowhere in the idea of saving money than financing these proven concepts. So what is your sense about that? I mean,
well, I think what I know from my colleagues when we've talked about this issue about schools being in a situation where they're not performing, and they've said to me, you know, Vince, can you give us something that can help? Can we come up with a program that can help? You know, we know that we've got to figure out something to help these children out. We know that there's too much of a long history that indicates that these academic settings have not been totally responsive, in spite of a lot of brave efforts and a lot of tremendous time and attention. Can we come up with something that they can be for? We think, based on some initial reaction, since we started talking about this on Friday with a number of our colleagues, that folks in the House and the Senate have an interest in working on and trying to support a program such as this.
Is there a specific model that you can point to where this has worked somewhere else?
What we're doing is Hashim, the concept that we're utilizing is based on stuff that's worked in other places. Okay, what we want to do is create the broad concepts, if you will, the broad parameters. More time in the classroom, okay, more intensive services being provided, those kinds of things, and allow some individual local creativity to occur inside each school building, but based on these 3 or 4 tenets that we're talking about here.
I guess I'm asking, is there somewhere else I can go to and say, okay, I'm looking at
a
place where
we can get you a list after we're done. We can get you that list.
Is it similar to something that's happened in the city where they had some of these social services already operating in some of the schools?
There are in some schools, and these guys can probably tell, there are social services happening in some of the schools. And, you know, there was with a vice principal on this past Sunday talking about social service in the schools. What we're trying to do is create a much more intensive effort, okay? And not just individuals who may come in from the outside on a daily or every other day or something like that basis, although good, okay? We're really talking about relocating the whole environment, the whole service structure environment right there in the school, okay? These children, our children, kids we've grown up with, you know, kids we see in our own neighborhoods, kids we're trying to serve have got a lot of issues that they're trying to confront, well documented this past week in daily newspaper conversations. We've got to respond to that. We've got to help them. They didn't put themselves in this kind of environment. They didn't create this environment for themselves. This environment was created for them. It's our responsibility to step up for them and save each and every one of these students. Each and every one of these students deserves a chance, deserves an opportunity to thrive and live out their dreams. It's our responsibility to create the environment so they can do that. These targeted schools have been suffering for a long time. We've seen progress in a lot of other schools based on the same tenets that we're advocating for. This is what we've done over the last 8 years in Pennsylvania. We're the only state in the nation where test scores have gone up every grade level, every subject matter. But these difficult schools have not been able to see that light, have not been able to receive that blessing. It's our job to create the environment for them where they can receive that blessing so they can get a chance to achieve, so they get a chance to be successful.
And you said this is a little more aggressive than what Superintendent Hackman has proposed. How, in what way?
Smaller sizes, longer time on task, okay? Longer days, you know, 6 weeks of the summer in school, all right? You know, that's a lot of time, all right? But you know what? When you're breathing life into these children, when you give them hope to realize their dreams, when they start learning stuff and picking up stuff and start seeing where they're, okay, my dreams can be realized, they buy into it. They're ready to go.
And you said you've gotten positive response from other legislators concerning this? So do you have bipartisan support currently?
We're working on that. We just put this out this past Friday. So this is starting to become the public release of this whole effort.
Have you talked to the administration about it?
We've not talked to Harrisburg administration. We have talked to the School District of Philadelphia
You haven't
administration.
talked to the Corps administration?
Not yet.
You plan to talk to them at some point?
Absolutely.
This week maybe?
More than likely. We go back in session on Tuesday, on tomorrow. I'm assuming that we'll be reaching out to them before the week is over and just lay out, what it is that we're coming up with. I mean, we've had conversations about education success and academic success when the education secretary came to meet with us, both privately and then in front of Appropriations Committee. We've talked about different kinds of concepts that work. We've talked about trying to create aggressive programs at the high school level to help deal with the issue of graduation rates for our high school students, okay? Because sometimes you have a situation where you're trying to reform an entire system. Those young people who are at 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, they can't necessarily wait for the reforming of an entire system. They've got to have an intervention right now so they can get to a point of graduation. So we've had those kind of conversations, and some of it has been pretty positive and responsive.
And have you identified some of the specific schools in different parts of the state?
Absolutely. It would be the similarity with SB1 would be that it's the same number of schools, it's the same identified schools that were targeted in SB1. Okay, those 144 low-performing schools. This is one of them right here. We're in one of them right here. The school.
Is that how you selected which schools before you said, okay,
yeah,
these are in SB1, we're gonna?
Yeah, these are low performing schools, have been in this way for a while. All right, let's figure out a way to try to address their issue. Let's try to figure out a way to address this problem, and instead of trying to search high and search low and come up with some creative new concept, let's take the stuff that we know that works. And in this environment, okay, where it's worked in other environments, and it may not have worked in this environment, let's intensify the effort, all right? If class sizes are 20, let's reduce them down to 15, okay? If the conversation is Saturday schools and a couple weeks during the course of the summer, let's take that to every Saturday. All right, and let's take that to 4 to 6 weeks during the summer, okay? Let's work with our bargaining units across the Commonwealth, and let's have a collaborative process where we get teachers in who really want to get in there and get, and are excited about it and want to get fully engaged and want to, want to breathe life into these children, okay? Let's work in a collaborative process to get our best and brightest instructors in those classrooms so they can do what it is that has to be done to turn around the lives of these students. All collaborative, all collaborative.